Hi, my name is Kieran, and I'm a practitioner at Meridian.yoga. And this is a video about basically um, what a twin flame is and who met their twin flame versus who didn't. Now, I'm going to keep this short, but what a twin flame is basically is it's not it's not fundamentally romantic, even though that is usually how that is a big element of it for sure, and that's usually how it first comes about. It doesn't usually come about through friendship or anything like that. It usually comes about romantically, but um I think every time it does come about romantically, I think every single time it is that way, but the nature of the relationship is not fundamentally romantic. It's actually spiritual. So if you are now, I'm not saying if you're experiencing your own psychology, but if you're experiencing a deeply psychologically driven um relationship, in that what you have with them is like, this is hard to describe, but basically, if what draws you and keeps you together and interested in them, engage with them, and in a relationship with them is basically based on your psychology and relationship dynamics and attachment styles and um you know what you like and don't like about each other, and uh sex in a very like surface level way, so like I don't know, like how into you guys in how into them physically you are, and how into them how attracted physically you are to each other, and like basically a large emphasis on the actual sex itself. um all of those things are not within the realm of twin flames, although what I will say is that whenever twin flames do have sex, it's incredibly powerful for sure. um and it's a deeply spiritual experience. Fundamentally, everything that happens between twin flames is fundamentally spiritual, because the connection, which isn't actually a relationship, it is an actual connection, truly, in a way. I don't know how else to put it. Like, it's, if I had to put it simply, it's not really a relationship or a connection in a conventional sense, but it is a connection in the sense that there are two physical bodies which are literally like connected energetically at every level. Now, what a twin flame is now people say two souls, uh one people say that it's one soul, two body, that has two physical bodies, which, for your understanding, to keep it simple, is true, but what is a soul basically? That's a pretty nebulous term and a nebulous concept. It's really, really vague, and it's essentially not really a reflection of the actual truth. Um, but for the sake of understanding, for getting kind of the point across, it's like, yeah, that's true, but I guess you want to be much more technical about that, because whenever you say soul, generally speaking, what I've noticed is that people just kind of um mean their feelings, deep, very, very deeply, their feelings, how they very, very much so deeply feel, which is not spirituality. That's not spirituality. It has nothing to necessarily to do with spirituality, and it's not really at all spiritually significant necessarily any specific emotions, emotional states, or anything. Whether it's Unless you're talking about trying to actually reach the peak through emotion, I guess, unless you're talking specifically about that, reaching the absolute peak through your emotion, unless you're talking specifically about that, whatever other emotion you're experiencing, it doesn't really matter. Now, the experience itself does matter, bec- it like the experience itself, but not the content of the experience. And why? Well, I guess you could I could explain that. It was a little bit of a tangent, but it's like it has nothing really to do with your emotions at all. At all. At all. Now, I say your emotions like mechanically, functionally plays a part in everything that's in the whole of everything that's happening between the two, but it's not about that. So it's not because you're feeling something or not feeling something or anything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. In that same sense, it also doesn't matter what you're thinking necessarily. It really doesn't. So e- even whether you're thinking about them or you're feeling anything about them, it doesn't necessarily have an effect. What does have an effect is the energy, though. Although most people are so in the dark about energy and they're so unaware of what they're doing with their own energy that they don't know how to properly manage it enough to where they can have thoughts and emotions about the twin flame without it getting completely out of control, right? And I could tell you why, and I can also show you how if you work with me. Well, I'm making a course for that, so I'm not because it's rather complicated, but it's like if you book a consultation with me, I can help you in some basic ways, but if you want the full thing, you're going to have to wait because that's taking a little bit of time to work on. Okay? But where was I? Basically, with your twin flame, it like nothing necessarily in particular determines whether or not you guys. Because, like, there's people who've said, like, whether you have a thought or emotion about them, they will run. Not true. I'm sure many of you have already experienced that, but also just it doesn't make sense. How would you be with them if you couldn't have a thought or emotion about them? Generally speaking, and this is what I just said, the reason why anybody would ever say that is because they're so unaware of what they're doing with their own energy. They're so unaware of their own energy or energy in general, as well as what they're doing with it, and they're so undisciplined with it that they, even if they did know, wouldn't be able to just simply control it. It's like they actually need help with how to manage their energy, you know? Because like, and because where I got to is not accidental. And I know what it takes to get here. And I know that you're not going to just stumble upon this. But I'm going to help you. That's essentially what I'm here for. It's really what I'm here for. Um, even though all the others in this space, some very few. Some I've seen do want to help, but they don't know. They either, to some extent, really don't know anything because they only really know what they've experienced. But they're going to project that onto the entirety of the twin flame journey and onto you. And they can't help it because that's all they know. That's actually all they know, and you can't fault them for this. And to some extent, they just really just want to help. And to some extent, they are, but only in and how the ways that they can. And ultimately, it's not in terms of what's actually happening, what the twin flame journey actually is, and all that sorts of stuff. It isn't actually helping, unfortunately. But, and this is why I make a distinction, because there's other people who appear to be like these people, who are very much so not those people, who are just here to make money off of you. I'm not even sure if they met their twin flame, and they even may go to their out of their way to convince you that the twin flame journey is not really real, and it's BS, and that you didn't really meet your twin flame. Even if you did, and you both, and you both know that you both did. You had the Kundalini awakening, you had the dark night of soul, you had the energy, like undeniable things, right? But they're going to get you to deny all of them because they never figured it out, because they're literally at the beginning and they never got past that, and so they had to reject everything because all they ever really experienced was I guess pain from it, which I mean, you know I'm sorry to hear that, but they're literally funneling you down the exact same road that they went down, and they're actually invalidating every experience that you have, that it's just not that way, and that this is not how it should be done, you know but for lack of any other resource, there just isn't anybody else, or doesn't seem to be anybody else who has anywhere near the like any kind of content that's pertinent to the twin flame journey other than him to any extent. So it's like, you know, whenever you feel any bit of like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. You don't know where to go, but you go back to him. Now you have somebody else, finally. But actually, unlike before, you have somebody who actually knows. I'm probably, and I don't like to say this, but it's true. It's actually true. And I've sat here for a while, hoping that somebody else did know. Maybe somebody else does know what I know. Maybe they do. And I'm sure they probably do, but they're not saying anything about it. They're not saying anything about it. And I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure which doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm here for that. So if you actually want help with this, you actually finally do have somebody who can actually help you, who has real methods that they can employ, and not just methods. Now, okay, let me set some basic expectations. If you're expecting a kind of snap of the fingers for things to just instantaneously work out, like instantly, you just want like a quick fix. I want my twin flame right now. It needs to work right now. To some extent, I'd say that depends on you and your own receptivity, perhaps, but also to some extent, you're not going to like. There is there is something actually to do. That's why I'm saying the place that I reached is not accidental. And these other people, they don't know what I know. So they actually can't help you with this, you know? And also in terms of them even just talking about it, they don't know. And so they actually can't help you. Even listening to them is actually detrimental to some extent. Because like I said, they're trying to because due to lack of their own um due to lack of their own experience, or and also indicative of their own experience, they're going to try to incontrovertibly get you to have the same experiences as them, because they don't think that there's anything else. They don't know of anything else. They're literally just telling you what they know. And like I said, but anyway, and not just if you're dealing with the twin flame, but also specifically if you had your kundalini activated, and you're having all the symptoms of kundalini, but including and especially the sleep disturbances and all the crazy energy stuff, and you need help with that. I'm here for that too. I'm here for that too. I'm also here if you're just interested in spirituality, you want to know what all the hubbub is about, but everything that everybody says sounds like a bunch of nonsense, and there's just a bunch of jargon. I'm here for that too. You want to actually experience something. I'm here for that. Um anyway, but like I said, if you're expecting a kind of, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that, because to some extent there is something that you actually do need to do. It takes time, actually. Something with the physical body that needs to happen, that does take time. Now, I'd say if you can handle the intensity of the energy, which generally speaking, if you're struggling with the twin flame stuff, which everybody does, I'd say, um, although some people, do, even though it's crazy, they willingly take up you know, the task, even blindly, even though they don't really know where they're going or what to do. They're willing to trust enough, and maybe they can get a little bit of somewhere, but even they, generally speaking, it at some point it doesn't really work out and it kind of falls apart, and then now they're up to hoping, wishing, and praying and pulling tarot cards, and theorizing and all these other stuff. And I'm saying, if you want something to actually happen and you want it to really happen, not just, oh, we're just guessing, necessarily, but that you want something to really happen, and you want something that you are working, you can work at, and you can literally feel it, like almost like you go to the gym, and then you, like, say you go to the gym for the first time, and it's hard and you feel like nothing happened, but like maybe like a week or 2 weeks later, you're doing things that were impossible before, that you felt were incredibly difficult, and maybe a couple of weeks after that you increase the weight and you're doing, you're doing something, and there's actual, real, tangible, real life progress, lasting actual progress. Do you want that? That's what I'm here to teach you, okay? And especially because there's nobody else in the world that I see doing this, uh and that I even see can do this. I see that there are some people, and I already said, who are willing. Most are not and are just here to take your money. There are some who are willing, but they don't have any knowledge, experience, or methods. Especially methods. They don't really know anything. They don't really know anything, you know? And all of their experiences that they've had were had in the dark. And so there's no clarity either, you know? And so that's what I see. And what I'm saying is, basically, I want to help you all realize clarity. And I want you all who are struggling with the twin flame journey not to struggle with it anymore. To see that it's actually simple for yourself, not just to hear it and be frustrated, but to actually know that for yourself experientially, and to experience it in the fullness that that you feel in your bones, that you feel in every cell of your body, in all of your energies, that is the case. That you feel, intuitively, that how it's supposed to be. It's like, it's weird. It's almost like whenever recognition happens, part of the information that comes along with recognition is what it's supposed to be, and almost seemingly your utter inability to attain to that. And what I'm saying is, I have the methods and the experience to actually help you to realize that potential that is intuitively there, but in that on some sense, has to do with spirituality, because it just pushes you in that direction. And because it's a spiritual connection, you know, it awakens you spiritually, it activated you spiritually, it encourages you down the spiritual path. It's a unique path. It's the spiritual journey via the twin flame. It's the twin flame journey. It's unique. It is absolutely unique. And there isn't actually anybody out there who has the information about it that I have, because they haven't experienced what I've experienced. I mean, maybe they have, for sure, I'd say. If you've met your twin flame, you have, but there's no clarity. There's just pain and suffering and conclusions based on those, on your pain and suffering regarding it. But if you want to know the truth, if you want to know it in every cell in your body, beyond a shadow of a doubt, come work with me. Book a consultation with me today on meridian.yoga, and you won't regret it. Anyway, that's a video for today. And like I said, look out for those courses. I'll announce them whenever I release them. And I hope to see some of you in my consultations. All right? Looking forward to working with some of you, and peace out. I'm really not good at ending or starting these videos, but usually whenever I get into them, it's not that bad. But